Zoom. And Jess and Em? Okay, welcome. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Stronger California 2022 Legislative Update webinar. We are very excited to see everyone here today and share with you updates about our 2022 legislative priorities for women and families. We are joined by several exciting Stronger California partners who have been with us since the beginning in our advocacy for women and families in California. So just a few housekeeping items that I'll start with. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of our presentation. So if you have questions as we are going through the presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A and we will get to them either during the presentation or in the end. And also, if you could please look out after the webinar, we will send you a link to the recording of the webinar, as well as a action center where you can take action to support all of our bills and budget priorities and show strong support for all of them. One final note is that we are live streaming on Facebook. So we are looking forward to sharing it that way, and you can have your followers check it out that way. So with that, we are going to get started. I am going to share my screen now. Okay, one moment. And while we are waiting for the webinar presentation to come up, we are going to start with an overview of who Stronger California is and why we came into being. So we have been around for since 2015. I'm just making this a presenter slideshow. And we have been focused on advancing economic security for women and families through a variety of advocacy methods. So let me make sure this is viewable. Slideshow version, maybe someone can Slack it to me. These are our presenters for today. So we came together in 2015, and the goal is to advance economic security for women and families in California. We have brought together over 75 organizations from around the state, and we have been advocating and coming up with major exciting wins for the past 6 years in a variety of areas. I've listed here our roundtable members who you can check out on our website as well. But we wanted to make sure people could see them here in our slideshow. We will send this out after so you can take an easier look. We have a network supporter action group from around the state of over 50 organizations that support our work through letters of support, through social media, and other forms of advocacy. And really, we engage our members from around the state in a variety of ways to support really robust bills and budget priorities through submitting letters of support, contacting legislators, showing support in committee hearings, sharing social media, and attending advocacy days like the one you see here at the Capitol. We will be sharing with you opportunities to participate in advocacy days that we will be doing in August. They will be virtual, so we would love for all of you to participate in those days as they come about. We will share information with you about them. So really quickly, our advocacy method is really focused on the idea that to advance economic security for women and families and people across genders in California, you need to do that in a comprehensive way. So we have a 4-pillared approach to our advocacy. They are listed here. Our first pillar is to ensure and fight for fair pay, job opportunities, and workplace justice. Our second pillar is advocating for access to affordable and quality childcare and early childhood education. Our third pillar is supporting family-friendly workplaces. And finally, our fourth pillar surrounds the idea of building economic security by both combating poverty and really building assets. So we structure all of our bills and budget priorities around those pillars and use that as a comprehensive method of saying to legislators, to the public, to governors, you can't just advocate for one of these issue areas. In order to ensure economic security for Californians, you have to look at all of the barriers that they face and can't look at these issues in silos. And so our legislative agendas every year focus on bills that fall within all of those issue areas. So our first pillar that we're going to focus on is childcare. And I am going to turn it now to Jennifer Greppy. She is the statewide lead chapter organizer for Parent Voices California and one of our childcare leads in Stronger California. And I'm going to turn it to her to talk about our exciting childcare priorities for 2022.
Yes, hello everyone. It's so great to be here today, and I'm really excited to share a little more about sort of what happened in childcare in this last year. And, you know, it was a tough year for childcare. I have to say that there were some disappointments. We were a little frustrated that we weren't able to get an increase in provider rates this year. We feel like it's really, you know, past time that providers make a living wage. And so that's something left on the agenda that we really feel strongly that we're going to need to make happen next year. And in addition, you know, the governor was, you know, forward thinking, especially during the time of the pandemic, when he realized that so many more families were going to need childcare. And so last year in the budget, the governor actually was able to put in
I believe we lost Jennifer. So I'm going to see if we can find her. Jennifer, are you there?
You might just need to unmute.
I think I'm back.
You're back.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'm going to just start again. So thank you so much. I thought that I had it all worked out since I had my audio on my phone, but apparently it's still yeah, anyway. So again, thank you all for coming to the webinar today. And I'm here to talk a little bit more about childcare. And in the budget this year, we were not able to get the really important win of making sure that our providers are paid a living wage. And so that's something that's really left on the table and something that we need to continue to work towards over the next couple of budget years. But what we did win was, you know, an additional 120,000 spaces for families that were on the waiting list. And so this actually happened in last year's budget, and it was a 3-year plan. So we got some of the spots last year, some this year, and some next year. And, you know, those families that have been waiting, some of them for years on the child care waiting list, are finally able to get the care that they've been waiting so long for. So that's a really great win. We were also able to freeze family fees for an additional year. So this was something that the federal government allowed for us to do in the federal relief money. And so we did freeze family fees last year, and we were able to get that done again this year. So families are not having to pay, you know, upwards of $500 a month towards their free childcare. And so they will not have to pay those fees until June 30th, 2023. And the union also won retirement and health benefits for all of the union members in childcare, which were mostly family childcare providers. So that was a really big win and something that they've been fighting for a long time. All right, so let's get down to business. What's still left undone? The thing that we really need to do is make a more equitable family fee schedule moving forward for families who use subsidized childcare. So if you're a parent and you're using subsidized childcare, you think that that care is going to be free. But actually, once you start reaching 40% of the state median income, you're required to pay a portion of your income towards the cost of that care. And that's up to 10% of a family's income, which is really a lot. And for the average family in California, it's about $250 a month, but it can go up to $600 a month, depending on what your income is. And so during the time when we've been able to freeze family fees, that's money that's gone directly back in the pockets of families all across the state. And it's made a huge difference for families like Caitlin, who lives in Marin County. She's a bank teller. She has 2 small kids. She's a single mom. She's going to school to further her own education. And her monthly income was $3,100 a month, which seems like an okay, decent salary, right? But in Marin County, her rent is $2,300. Her family fee was $389 a month. And then you add in, PG&E, food, gas, and the other things, and there was literally nothing left every month. And so the ability for Caitlin to have that extra $389 a month really made a huge difference for her family. And, if those family fees don't get fixed long-term, meaning past that 2023 date when the waiver will expire, she's going to have to start paying that again. And it's going to be a really big challenge for her and her family. And what it will mean is that she'll probably have to drop back to part-time care because that's all the family fees she'll be able to afford, which means she'll have to drop out of college and, postpone her dreams. And so what's coming up next? So this bill is getting ready to go to Senate Appropriations. It is a 2-year bill. So it's been through the whole process and we are in the second house. And that Senate Appropriations hearing is scheduled for August 8th. And right now we're collecting support letters. And so we would really love it if you could, in the chat, we're gonna put in the support letter link. You can add your name and your organization or sign on as a person. That's perfectly fine too. And, we're hoping to be able to get those all finished and submitted by tomorrow. And so don't wait, do it now. And we hope that we are going to be able to get family fee schedules updated so that families can use and receive the care that they so desperately need. So I thank you all, and I apologize for my little hiccup with my technology, but I think we got through it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and for all the advocacy that Parent Voices, Child Care Law Center, and so many of our other Stronger California members engage in every year to ensure better quality and affordable childcare. Again, we will send these links out after the webinar as well, but it is now in the chat, and we urge everyone to sign this support letter. Next, we're going to turn to our family-friendly workplaces pillar. And as those of us who work and have families know, which is pretty much most of us, being able to support and support your families while working can be really difficult. And that is what this pillar is about, ensuring that our families have the supports they need at work to be able to continue working. So I'm going to turn it now to Katie Duberg. She is the political organizing director with the California Work and Family Coalition and one of the key pillar leads of this pillar. Katie, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jessica. And thank you to everyone who's here to talk about these really important issues. So the bill I'm going to highlight today is SB 951, authored by Senator Durazo, which would make paid family leave more accessible to California workers, specifically California workers who are currently earning low wages. So as I'm sure we're all experiencing, many Californians are struggling on 100% of their paycheck, right? Costs are going up in California. And we have this amazing programs, California State Disability Insurance and paid family leave, which allow us to, if we need to take time away from work to bond with a new baby, to recover from our own illness, or to care for a seriously ill family member, we can take that time away from work and receive partial pay from state disability insurance or paid family leave. However, currently those programs only pay 60% of most workers' wages, or 70%, but only for the very lowest income workers. So even a full-time worker working at California's current minimum wage of $15 an hour does not qualify for the 70% wage replacement rate. And so what's happening is that people are contributing to these programs and aren't able to actually take them when they need to. And so they're missing out on time bonding with their babies. They're working through pregnancy complications and serious illness, or aren't able to care for an aging parent with dementia, Alzheimer's, other serious conditions. And so what SB 951 would do is it would increase the wage replacement rate for paid family leave and state disability insurance to 90% for California workers earning lower wages. It would make it much more possible for people to actually use these programs. And I would also like to note that other states have actually already done this and offer 90% wage replacement rates to lower wage workers in their paid family leave programs. So where we are now is that this bill is in the second house. It's been referred to Assembly Appropriations. And hopefully will come out of that committee and come up on the floor. And, we know that people need these programs at some of the most significant times in their lives when they're going through major family transitions. And we just feel that everyone should be able to take that time to recover from illness, to bond with a baby, to care for a family member. Income should not be a determining factor in whether or not you can do that. So thank you so much for the opportunity to highlight this, and I'll hand it back to Jessica.
Thank you, Katie. The link is in the chat, and we urge everyone to take support on this bill, and we will send it out after as well. Our second priority bill this year on the family-friendly workplace pillar is AB 1949. And essentially, AB 1949 addresses an inequity in our current leave laws, which is that while most workers, as you just heard, have the right to take time off to care for a seriously ill family member, certain family members, which you'll hear about in a moment, if that family member dies, workers do not have any right to take time off, and in fact could be fired for taking even a day off to grieve the loss of a loved one, to plan a funeral, to attend to all of the needs that are that they need to attend to upon the loss of a loved one. So this bill would give workers of employers with 5 or more employees the right to 5 days of unpaid but job protected bereavement leave upon the death of a close family member. The family members for whom this would apply are listed here on the slide. They track the current family members under our California Family Rights Act, our family medical leave law. It would also prohibit retaliation against workers for requesting or taking bereavement leave. We know how critical this is. Virtually every worker will likely encounter, unfortunately, the loss of a loved one. This has always been the case, but of course, during the horrific COVID pandemic, which is still ongoing, although hopefully we are emerging from it, it still is ongoing, and we have seen this need become even stronger. So this bill has always been critical. It's been a more than 10-year fight to try to get some form of bereavement leave in California. We really hope that we can count on your support on this bill. I would note that at least two other states have already passed some form of bereavement leave, so we really need California to catch up. The next votes on this bill are Senate appropriations and then the Senate floor. We will circulate a floor alert for those of you who are able to join on as an organization. That would be much appreciated, and that will be circulated in August. Next, I am going to turn it to Evan Minton. He is with Voices for Progress, a key Stronger California partner, and I will turn it to Evan to take it from here on our last family-friendly workplace priority bill.
Thank you so much, Jess. It's been a pleasure to work in Strong Coalition on this incredibly important legislation. Because California's workplace leave laws only allow workers time off to care for family members based on the nuclear family structure, and the overwhelming majority of households today don't conform to that model, we're leaving so many people behind. And groups overwhelmingly excluded from caring for their loved ones are members of the LGBTQIA+ community, immigrant communities, households of color, low-income families, and older adults, all of whom are more likely to rely on caretakers outside of the current legal definition of a family member. And in fact, California is actually lagging behind other states and the federal government when it comes to who employees can utilize their own paid sick days and unpaid caregiving leave to care for. And so AB 1041 actually gives employees the ability to use their unpaid job protected caregiving leave and use their paid sick days to care for a chosen family member that the employee designates at the time that the employee requests the leave. And the chosen family member would not need to be related by blood or through a legal relationship. And because Voices for Progress, we galvanize the advocacy of business leaders, entrepreneurs, and so forth, I thought it might be interesting to hit on or touch on what the what V4P members have been discussing with the governor and legislators about this bill from a business perspective. So V4P members have been letting the governor and legislators know that as successful business owners and business leaders, these types of policies are good for business and our state because they allow us to recruit top job applicants to California, and they give California the best pool of the best and brightest employees to hire. And then also the specific policies in AB 1041 are beneficial to employers because, and studies are actually showing this, these policies increase worker retention and employee morale and reduce the costs of hiring new employees. And that actually holds true for businesses of all sizes. So this bill's up for a vote in the Senate right now on the Senate floor. And we're going to be sending out a floor alert, and we really want as strong a showing as possible. And so we're just asking people to sign on to the floor alert as soon as it hits your inbox.
Thank you so much, Evan. We are next going to turn to our third pillar of Stronger California, and that is ensuring fair pay, job opportunities, and workplace justice. So I'm first going to turn it to Mariko Yoshihara. She is the Legislative Counsel and Policy Director of the California Employment Lawyers Association, a core leader within Stronger California and beyond, to talk about our first priority bill on this pillar. I'll turn it to you, Mariko.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. So the bill I'm going to talk about is SB 1162, authored by Senator Limón, and we are one of the proud co-sponsors along with Equal Rights Advocates, Tech Equity, and the California Commission for the Status of Women and Girls. So as I'm sure many of you are aware, the gender and race wage gaps are simply not budging. In 2020, California women lost $46 billion due to the gender pay gap, and people of color in the state lost $61 billion due to the race pay gap. So SB 1162 will combat the gender and race wage gap in California by increasing pay transparency. So this is how I would do it. First, it will require employers with 15 or more employees to provide salary ranges on public job postings. And it will also require employers with 250 or more employees to publicly report aggregate pay data broken down by race, gender, and ethnicity. So existing law already requires employers that have 100 or more employees to submit this same aggregate pay data to the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And actually, based on these reports, the DFEH recently published findings that unsurprisingly showed that among workers in the lowest pay bands, women were overrepresented. Among executives or senior level officials or managers, only 34% were women. Among administrative support workers, 70% were women. Among workers in the lowest pay bands, Latino and Black workers were overrepresented. Latino workers made up just 9% of workers in the highest pay band compared to 37% of total reported workers. So that is the kind of big picture data that these reports provide. And this bill will require the DFEH to make this pay data publicly available specifically for companies with 250 or more employees. And research already shows in countries that require this same kind of public pay data reporting, in those countries, the wage gap has shrunk, that this does work. Studies also show that the vast majority of Americans want companies to publicly disclose workforce data, pay data, and actually the companies that do disclose this data outperform their peers in the stock market. The other thing, really important part of this bill is that it requires employers to disclose the aggregate pay data of workers who are hired through third-party staffing agencies. So we're co-sponsoring this bill with Tech Equity, which has done a lot of really great work to expose the exploitation of these kinds of contract workers who are often perma-temping for these large companies and doing the same work as direct hires, but for much less money and fewer benefits. Google has been in the press recently. They actually have more contract workers than they do have direct hires. So this type of reporting, including these workers who are hired through staffing agencies, will expose a little bit more this growing trend in sort of precarious workplaces that are intended to really deny worker benefits and wages. In a recent report, Tech Equity also found that these contract workers are more likely to be women, non-binary, and people of color. And lastly, I would just add that this bill is especially important because so many workers are now bound by forced arbitration agreements, meaning they can't even file a lawsuit for equal pay because they are required to submit their claim to a private arbitrator instead. So we simply can't fix systemic pay discrimination. So addressing systemic hiring practices, pay practices, promotion practices, when workers can't enforce their rights. So that's why the transparency is so important, because at least there is some accountability to the public. Also, transparency of salary ranges and job postings will also promote equitable pay by giving workers the information that they need in order to negotiate a fair and higher wage. So we think that these are really important tools to combating the gender and race wage gap. We have a pretty hard fight coming up because this is tagged a job killer by the Cal Chamber of Commerce, and we know that they are targeting this one pretty heavily. So the upcoming votes are in the Assembly Appropriations Committee, and then after hopefully we get through that committee, then it's going to the Assembly floor. Back to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Mariko. Next, I'm going to turn it to Renee Bayardo with SEIU California to talk about our second priority bill on this pillar. I'll turn it to you, Renee.
Thank you, Jessica. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So first, I just want to say that it's an honor actually to be part of this webinar and with this group. Like, these bills are all really good. And if I haven't supported your bill yet, can you ping me? But I know that we've at least supported some of these. So we're working on a fast food bill. Fast food workers look a lot like our members generally. So our members are women. Our members are Black and brown. That's who fast food workers are too. There are 80% people of color. It's majority women. It's really an industry that has a different kind of power dynamic. It's similar to some industries, and it's a little bit different in that you have these multinational corporations like McDonald's who set all of the terms. They tell you when a store has to be open. They basically dictate everything. And then you have a franchisee in the middle, and it makes it difficult for the worker to kind of negotiate kind of workplace issues because the terms are really being dictated from the top, and then their employer is actually the person in the middle. So what we're proposing to create is something that's similar to things that occur in Europe, but they really don't happen in the United States yet, which is a sector council that can sit down with the workers, with the franchisees, with the franchisors, and discuss all of the things that are happening in the workplace. So you've probably seen stuff on the news where there's like workplace violence, where you might see, a fight occurred in a McDonald's or another store. Those are the types of things that we've seen, shootings and other types of violence. There's a lot of wage theft and sexual harassment occurring in the workplace. And a lot of the things are particular to that particular work environment, the particular structure that exists. So we're hoping to get this bill passed and really give workers a voice, which we think is one of the most important things to improving the lives of people, is making sure that they have a voice in the workplace and that they're able to really speak to the working conditions that they're experiencing. And that's ultimately what the bill is about. It is a difficult bill. It's one that, you know, as written now has, you know, 21 votes written all over it. It's like a 21-41 kind of bill that really needs to get muscled out. So we're obviously going to apply, you know, our pressure, but anything that others can do to help us would be amazing. I think that we have a link to an area where you can sign on support. And I think following up, there will be an email where we can send a sample letter that the organizations can send in as well. I think that would be really helpful. And if you're interested in making any rounds, like I could always send you targets directly as well. So appreciate the time and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Renee. And I'll just note that one of the most exciting aspects of Stronger California is that we really try to prioritize bills that are pushing the needle in terms of new models of how to better address workers' rights, family rights, economic security. And this is one of those that we really think would set the pace for the nation. So thank you, Renee. So we're going to now turn to our building economic security by addressing poverty, combating poverty, and building assets. So I am first going to turn to Shamika Gaskins. She is the president and CEO of Grace and Childhood Poverty. And I will turn it to you, Shamika, to cover our first priority bill on this pillar.
Thank you. And just echoing Renee, how much of an honor it is to be on this panel and part of Stronger California and such critical, important work that's happening across the state. We're really excited to be here to talk about HOPE accounts. We are thrilled that this proposal, championed by Senator Skinner and co-sponsored by us, along with Liberation and Generation, J-Bay, and EPIC and Poverty in California, made it into the final budget. So HOPE accounts are modeled after baby bonds, which you may have heard of, which aim to close the racial gap and break cycles of intergenerational poverty by ensuring everyone has access to capital that they can use to establish long-term financial stability. The concept was designed by Derek Hamilton and Sandy Darity, two economists, and it's to create these trust accounts that the state holds and invests until a young person reaches the age of 18, at which in that time they can then draw them down towards wealth building assets. So in California, we felt that this is a really important proposal to bring, particularly at this time, because we are continuing to push and fight to keep children and families out of poverty. We had nearly 2 million children living in poverty in 2019. We continue to have the highest child poverty rate in the country. And we know that the state's stark economic disparities fall across racial lines and that they were exacerbated by COVID and the pandemic. So putting our children and families sort of at greater risk for the severity of economic instability. However, we also saw at the same time that when the government was making investments during the pandemic, we saw our poverty rate slash for children by a third in 2020. We currently, unfortunately, as the numbers continue to go up, have more than 32,000 children in California that lost a parent or caregiver to COVID. And we have more than 60,000 children in our child welfare system. So, and we know that the loss of a parent or caregiver and system involvement can have a significant impact on a child's development, their well-being, outcomes over the short term and long term. And our fundamental problem continues to not just be about family saving, particularly marginalized communities, but having access to capital, being able to build wealth in the long term. So these accounts will provide children with the capital, the cash to stay housed, have access to post-secondary education, and tap into their entrepreneurial dreams when they reach 18. We really truly believe that the HOPE accounts are an important step towards our goal of ensuring that every child in California has access and the support they need to be healthy, wealthy, and a safe future. And so we are really excited that this first push out the gate, we have $115 million in the budget to get the program started with these two populations. And we believe it's going to lay the crucial groundwork for the potential expansion of baby bonds and HOPE accounts to secure greater economic opportunity for all children living and impacted and experiencing poverty in the state. Currently, the program details are being worked out in TBL language as we speak. So we're just really happy. I want to celebrate the fact that Stronger California gave us strong support this year and helped get this proposal to where it is. And we know it made a difference, and we hope that you'll continue to follow us and pay attention. We will be circulating in the links a thank you letter, sign-on letter for the governor and the legislature, as well as later a support letter when the trailer bill comes out. So thank you.
Thank you, Shamika, and thank you for highlighting just how critical it is to combat intergenerational wealth gaps that are often both racial and gender-based. That is one of our key priorities and one that we address in Stronger California through a variety of strategies, including some that you heard earlier, addressing and combating equal pay issues and ensuring pay equity, and also these types of anti-poverty measures, which are so critical. So thank you for sharing this important priority.
Thank you.
Next, I am going to turn it to Alice Kessler. She is a partner with Greenberg Traurig, and she is representing the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, which has been leading a variety of important policy advocacy efforts to combat domestic violence, and really to highlight with this bill an issue that we as a Stronger California community have been trying to uplift for a while, which is the combination and the correlation between economic security and survivors being able to leave an abusive situation. So I will turn it now to you, Alice.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you to A Stronger California for allowing me to present on behalf of the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. Their policy director is on parental leave, so you got me today, but I'm very, very happy to be here and to be hearing about all of these efforts. And thank you for including this. We've done a lot of work on this bill throughout this year. It is a 2-year bill with the banking industry, and we're not quite done yet with that work. And so it's not a foregone conclusion that we will get this bill passed, but we have made a lot of amendments to it and hope that we can really get this over the finish line. It strikes me that a lot of the bills we're talking about today would not only set important policies in California, but they could set national policy trends. And I think this bill as well is an example of that. We're really looking at combating coercive debt against survivors of domestic violence, but the bill also applies to foster youth as well and victims of elder abuse. And, you know, we see that this type of financial abuse can occur in a lot of different ways and take on a lot of different forms. You know, taking out credit in a partner's name that then ends up ruining their credit subsequently. You know, purchasing property in that person's name that then becomes a debt that they incur. There's a lot that can go on in this space, and we know that this occurs in basically all of domestic violence. 99% of domestic violence cases, you're dealing with some form of financial abuse as well. And of course, it just goes on to leave survivors in that cycle of, you know, their credit being ruined, potentially not being able to get, you know, other financial, get loans or get banking opportunities, get jobs, get housing. And so it's, you know, it's a permutation of domestic violence that's very serious and very troubling. And so the bill would set up a mechanism so that a survivor could seek debt relief by providing evidence that they were not the person who was at fault for incurring that debt, that it was the result of coercion or duress. And so you can submit things like police reports, identity theft reports, court orders. And I will say that we're also working closely with all the stakeholders involved to ensure that to the greatest extent possible, these types of issues can be settled outside of court and come to sort of a quick conclusion. There remain to be some issues. One that I'll share is that, you know, the industry groups involved in this say, well, we want to be able to go after someone for these debts. And what if we want you to identify who the bad actor is, essentially. And we know from our work that can actually oftentimes put survivors of domestic violence in dangerous positions. And so there's been a lot of conversations about that, which we continue to have. But again, you know, as we come up to the final month here, any support would be greatly appreciated. I will follow up with probably a little later on with a link to our floor alert when we if we get to the floor. And again, we'll know a lot about that around August 12th, when the deadline for the Assembly Appropriations Committee to get the bill out passes. But we'd love any organizations to join on our floor alert. And as you're having conversations with your legislators, we'd love to kind of keep this bill on the radar. I'll also plan to share any social media posts that we might have that you could uplift in your networks as well. And happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you all very much for your attention to this bill.
Thank you so much, Alice. We will also share a link to a short talk that we did with our partners at California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, really highlighting the connection between advancing and protecting economic security and enabling survivors to leave and stay out of abusive relationships, because we know how often it is that people have to stay in or return to such a situation because of financial instability. So thank you so much for that overview of that bill. Next, I want to turn, last but not least, to Sasha Feldstein with the California Immigrant Policy Center to talk about our final priority bill on our anti-poverty and asset building pillar. Sasha, I will turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Jess, and thanks to everyone for having me and for all of the other panelists to talk about the great work that you're doing. I know that this is a lot of information to digest, and I get lonely on a Zoom screen after all these years. So please use the chat box to say like, yes, things you agree with, things you're excited about, or anything you want to share. And I'll try to keep it quick. So again, my name is Sasha. I'm with the California Immigrant Policy Center, but I'm here on behalf of the Safety Net for All Coalition, which was formed at the beginning of the pandemic amongst workers' rights organizations, immigrant rights organizations, legal service organizations, people who came together because we knew that what was going to happen, that what happened was going to happen, which was that people who were undocumented were going to be some of the most directly impacted by the pandemic, both in terms of COVID-related deaths, illnesses and deaths, and in terms of job loss and economic impacts. The Safety Net for All Coalition has been working now for a few years to try to fill in a gap where undocumented immigrant excluded workers have been excluded from unemployment benefits when they lose their job. And this is not limited to the pandemic, right? When wildfires hit, earthquakes hit, other disasters, or just changes in the economy, there's now talk about whether or not a recession is approaching. The fact of the matter is that many of our workers, community members, family members, loved ones are being put out of a job without any financial recourse, and we need to change that. So AB 2847, authored by Eduardo Garcia, will, can you go back to the last slide? Thanks, Jess. AB 2847, I'll just keep talking, don't worry about it, would create an excluded workers pilot program that would provide unemployment benefits for workers excluded from traditional unemployment insurance due to their immigration status. Through this program, workers would be able to get $300 a week for up to 20 weeks of unemployment. And while we were really disappointed to not be included in the budget this year, we are still moving forward with the bill. And I hope that everyone on this call can commit right now to supporting us for the budget fight next year, because we know that's going to be coming up. But we really want to see the bill get to the governor's desk and to get him to sign it and to show his support and commitment for making sure that this happens. The program would also make sure to ensure safeguards are in place to protect people's dignity and privacy. It will has safeguards in place to address fraud. And it's also really, I think this is very important for people to know, that it's built off of proven and successful programs in other states. New York was the first state to do a program like this. It was extremely, extremely successful. They got money out the door quickly, effectively, efficiently. They were able to address any concerns around how to prove work history and identity, etc. And it had a huge, huge impact on people's lives who weren't forced to go into debt or lose their homes, or not be able to pay for medical bills because they had that financial recourse. And that's what we want to see happen in California. The COVID-19 pandemic is not the first, and it's not going to be the last crisis to hit our workers and our community members. And so that's why we need this bill now. We will put a link in the chat to sign up to join our coalition, be part of our listserv, stay updated on actions. We really are going to need everyone's support for this coming year. So if you have any questions, I can also include my email if you want to follow up.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for highlighting this really important priority bill, which we knew it was important before, but I think the pandemic really has highlighted how critical it is that all of our workers have some type of safety net to support themselves and their families when they find themselves outside of a job. So thank you so much for highlighting that priority. So we're going to turn now to the Q&A. Please, if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. I feel you, Sasha, on the Zoom loneliness tip. We will address them now. So we're going to start with a question about the HOPE accounts. And so I will turn it to Shamika to answer the question for anyone who didn't see it. The question is, who benefits from the HOPE accounts? How old does a child have to be? And will there be a family income limit to qualify?
Thank you. Yes, and thank you for the question. It's an important one. So currently eligibility, it will be limited to the two populations that I mentioned, low-income children bereaved by COVID-19 and children in long-term foster care. And there will be an income eligibility based on Medi-Cal. So that's 266% of the federal poverty line, or a little bit less than $73,000 per year or less for a family of 4.
Thank you. The next question is, will a listing of the bills be sent afterwards? Yes. So we will send a link to this PowerPoint presentation, the PowerPoint itself, list of our bills, and links for you all to take action to support them. And we really hope that you, having heard how critical these are for workers and families across California, can help us push them across the finish line in this coming month. We are also going to put in the chat a link to an action center, which has almost all and soon to be all of our Stronger California priority bills, so that you can easily find links to take action to support them all in one place. So please click on those links when you can and support all of these priorities now. I also wanted to let everyone know about ways that you can sign up to be updated about Stronger California's priorities this year and also going forward. So here on the slide, and we will also put it in the chat, is a link if you want to sign up. You're individually signed up for updates. You may already be getting them, but if you're not sure, you can click on that link and you will get updates about our priorities, how you can support them, and how you can engage going forward. We will also circulate, as I mentioned at the beginning, information about ways that you can participate in our Stronger California lobby and advocacy days to support these bills in their final push. And then finally, if your organization is not yet a member of Stronger California, either as the roundtable or as the network supporter members, please reach out to me. My email is right there on that slide so that you can become a member. So I am going to double check that there are no additional questions in the chat. Okay, and we have a lot of information that's been shared via chat. So hopefully you all can see some information about the amazing co-sponsors on these bills. And with that, we have achieved our goal of wrapping up early. That was a goal that we had from the beginning. I want to just say thank you so much for everyone. I see this list of amazing participants, and I know how many of you are already supportive, but to our new supporters, thank you so much for joining us today. And please do visit our Action Center to support all of these important priorities for women, people across genders, workers, and families as we lead into the final push in August. We look forward to celebrating our wins with you And thank you so much for being here and supporting our advocacy.